Good afternoon again. Just got back from town. Today is the first day of sort of like the lockdown here in Ireland being lessened somewhat. I'm allowed to go 5 kilometers, but still doesn't get me to the beaches where I really want to go. And a few other things like now auto motor parts and accessories and supplies shops are now opened, and there's a lot of good things in there for artists like spray paints and stuff like that, so there's good things there too. Same with the hardware stores, which open today too as well. And so like there's lots of, if you're creative and stuff, there's lots of things you can do to get art materials in these kinds of places, which the art shops are shut and stuff like that. And so there's a bit of a better energy today. There's still lots of hyper, like still the same thing. A guy passed me in the supermarket today, and it was like he was terrified of being close to me. And of course, he's a big, tall guy, all built up, hard man with a mask around his face, gloves, terrified. Always the big, hard ones, always the hard men who are the most scared. But I had a I had a strange dream last night. Went to bed coughing my guts up from this hay fever, and the pollen is unbelievable. Like black cars are practically grey with the amount of pollen on them, and it's really high pollen at the moment. Tree pollen and grass pollen, and burns your eyes out. So I was coughing and coughing and coughing, and I fell asleep. And I had a dream, and this was nothing like this has ever happened to me before. In the dream, a man wearing a white coat, like a scientist or a doctor or an official of some kind, came over and put his hand into my face, and it went right into my face and through my head, and it went down and grabbed into my lungs and pulled out, it's disgusting, all the phlegm and all the snot and all the fluid as a big huge pile out, and it came out of my nose and everything, and he threw it into a bin. And instantaneously I was breathing perfectly, and I stopped coughing, and I've been like that ever since I woke up this morning. It's like the dream came real in my physiology. Now, symbolically, what does that mean? Does it mean that I've developed an immunity to something, to maybe COVID? I don't know. Does it mean that on the collective wider level, the COVID-19 thing is over? I don't know. But I've never had a dream where, well, other than a sex dream where you get an erection, but I mean, you never had a dream where uh, I've had that happen, where it was a physical change in an illness or something. And it was remarkable. And it's just more this thing now, we're all having unbelievable off the scale dreams right now. And this has been reported, even the mainstream media has been reporting this. It's again, and I'm even, it's the consciousness is changing because of the lockdown. Or maybe it's adjusting to what it used to be, I don't know. But like so many people have noticed, the spiritual world is closer now, of which dreams is a part of that. Remember, dreams of the oracle are an oracle. But the the New York Post yesterday had stories of people who live in haunted houses, uh, claiming that there's far more whatever haunting, or far more ghostly experiences and phenomena than there normally is. Just like there has been lots more UFO events than there has been normally pre-lockdown. Now, it's really interesting stuff what's going on now. There's definitely, well, I think many of us, like the people who listen to these videos, are aware that, we're different than the main body of humanity. And maybe we are going through some kind of evolutionary change. We definitely seem to be. And I often wonder, is this how like evolutionary changes within society and within humanity happen? That a certain segment becomes frightened by something, and an entrenched conservatism takes over, and they become so frightened of change that they devolve. And where people like us who are kind of like, well, we kind of see through, there's a big psyop going on here, even though COVID-19 is a real problem. It's not affecting, it didn't justify the the pandemic emergency globally. And we're I mean, I posted the day that I'm probably the happiest I've ever been, or happiest I've been since I was a kid, and or since I was a teenager, probably playing music in New York when I first arrived there. But um, it's everyone was saying the same. They feel great. Now I know there are people suffering and stuff like that, but the vast majority of people are saying they're feeling really, really good right now. And these would be people that would be following these kind of videos and aware of this kind of mindset that we all have here, this tribe we have going on. And it definitely, yeah, it does feel that way. You know, you have your odd bad day and so on, but definitely we all seem to have a heightened state of attenuation, should we say, in terms of our spiritual outlook, our ability to see clarity and intuition and so on. And it's really quite remarkable. It's really amazing. While the others, the normies, we're going to call them, the NPCs, become entrenched further into their own terror. And they don't want they don't want the lockdown to end because they're terrified of everything. And they're terrified of the world post lockdown. They're literally in absolute terror and fear, and that's why the whole that joke meme, let's never go out, oh, never, let's never go out ever again, so no one will never die of anything. And that's literally what they're like, the extreme states of terror. And they will not evolve. I often wonder if this is what happened when, you know, Homo sapiens became the dominant human over Neanderthal. Maybe Neanderthal didn't want to use fire, it was afraid of it. And Homo sapiens used fire. And I'm not saying this is the truth, I'm just saying this maybe something like this. Or maybe Homo sapiens were actively creating fire rather than Neanderthals who would wait for a lightning strike or something like that. And so, maybe we're sort of like we're going through that again. Those of us who are not living in absolute terror, begging for the government and the mass media to save us, who don't look up to a little girl, Greta Thunberg. You know, the ones the branch Covidians, as we call them, which is a majority of normies right now. Those of us who are not like that, maybe we're evolving, and maybe part of having dreams like this that are like, you know, more than just dreams. I didn't even know what you would call that. A new kind of experience are the ones developing for the future. We are the trailblazers going forward. We were the ones who will bring forth the second renaissance. I can definitely feel there's something like that happening on. Definitely. Just the fact that we're so full of good humor and laughing and stuff like that and sharing funny memes. You know, at the same time, we're aware of the challenges that's been faced to us. I mean, it's just been announced there that India will probably have a 45% reduction. Now, you think about it, as a billion people, a 45% economic reduction this year, post COVID-19 lockdown. And that's quite a frightening number for a country that size. But Ireland will be the same. Don't mark my words, in your country probably will be too. And, you know, these are challenges we have to face. I was looking at get petrol is 1.11 a litre in the local garages. I mean, they're giving it away. And yeah, it's like, so that we're more likely to have while we're aware of the severity of it, and we're aware that it was a real virus and it did kill people. The numbers now are looking about the same as what the seasonal flu is. Now, I know it's still a tragedy that someone's grandparents or uncle, but it does seem like they targeted the elderly, the way they shoved people back into old people's homes, and they all infected one another with COVID. It just, I mean, no one's really talking about this. It would have been safer to open up and let the elderly go where they wanted than to lock them all up where they all infected each other, unless you wanted, in fact, to kill them. And it does seem that way, doesn't it? You know, they don't have to pay insurance or pensions or anything like that. And, or huge healthcare bills, just kill them off quickly in a few days with a really bad flu. And yeah, this is an amazing time. It's like, again, and the whole, I agree. I totally agree with the people who the likes of like Robert Anton Wilson, who said there is no Illuminati, there is no one really in charge because they don't know what they're doing. They think they're in charge, but it's chaos at the top. And you see that with this, like even here in Ireland, the the hardware stores, the automotive places, and the people going back to their regular jobs who couldn't work from home, that we were allowed to do that today. That was only 2 weeks ago. The government put out a phased bullshit thing. I knew they were not going to stick to this because that's what I know that our civil servants always have these phased things and they never stick to them. And that they were not supposed to go back till June 8th, which is another month. Well, 3 weeks. And they're all back today. So it shows you how arbitrary and makey uppy it all is. And then on top of this, now we have the creation of an Orwellian inner class where you have like hospital staffs who think they're like, it's all got the TikTok stuff and the hero stuff has gone to their heads now. And they think they're some kinds of big shots now. They're a higher caste than us animals. And they're now, that's now being extended to things like civil servants who are the biggest fucking joke on the face of the earth in terms of being either employees or and anyone who offers to society. They're in there because they can't offer to society. You know the old joke that those who can, and those who can't teach? It's really not that. It's those who can, and those who can't are civil servants. That's that, and that these people they're part of the Heroes League, so it just gets really, really nauseating at times. And remember that arrogance won't last too long because when the economic horrors unleash in the next 3 or 4 months, you will see that smugness that we're heroes, the whole Rainbow Coalition, whatever you want to call them, lose their zeal and lose their glamoury. That's really what they're on false glamoury. And that's not to say there's not great people in hospitals. There absolutely is, amazing people. But it's just gone too far now. It's just fed into the worst. There's assholes who work in healthcare service too. And they're all like, we're supposed to consider all them wonderful as well. They're not, they're still assholes. And so, then we had another thing where a man, it came out like, and these are hard cases to verify, but there was one of a man in Colorado who died of alcohol poisoning, and they put it down as COVID-19. Now, at the same time, this thing, and like I said, I'm really concerned about the veganism thing. That when this thing all ends, we're going to find out that we talked about this in other videos. I won't stress too much on it. That they try to push more and more estrogen on men to fight the virus, when it turns out that testosterone probably is the best thing for men to fight the virus, and just this whole sinister nature, and then you see like how weak, frightened, you see all these hard men, they're all frightened, they're the biggest sci-boys of all, and they're all self-righteous and sanctimonious, they're the worst. They're actually, I don't like the Karen name thing. I don't like the one they use the name Karen. I think that's part of stupid, actually. The biggest of those moaners and whingers of all are actually men. They're not women. They're fellas who are like these sanctimonious types who have tattoos and beards, and they're on Twitter and they think they're hot. They think they're hot shit, and they're saying, "Oh, you're trying to tell me you got to kill people." They're much worse. That's what I found the biggest assholes of all are the assholes. The classic asshole who has a high opinion of himself because he has more tattoos than someone else, or has a beard and a pair of tight skinny jeans, and he's a tattoo artist or something like that. I find they're the biggest assholes of them all. And not the yeah, like I think that Karen thing is a bit stupid, to be honest with you. I don't yeah, I know what they're describing, the archetype. The name Karen doesn't suit it. It's stupid or something. It should be called something else, like what it used to be called, a busybody, And and the men have been worse by a mile. There's an inherent sexism, I think, in a lot of that whole Karen thing. I definitely do see a sexism, because the ones I've seen whinging and whining the most are generally men. And they're men who think they're like, alpha males, and they're fucking cooks. That's really what they are. And alpha cooks. So so again, they don't know what they're doing, and they're clueless. And the fact that so much is open in Ireland today, 3 weeks to a month ahead of schedule, shows that everything they've done has been arbitrary and makey up. It's not any. They don't know. There's no experts. There's none. And this whole thing of listen to the experts. I mean, I saw the New York Times today is still saying that Trump is dangerous because he doesn't listen to experts. Who? Experts like Professor Neil Ferguson of Imperial College, who, you know, was banging his woman and exposing her kids during the lockdown. The man who the fucking NPC, the lord of the NPCs who demanded the lockdown, based on his fraudulent computer models, which are the same kind of models used for climate predictions. And then you have the same old crowd like Greta Thunberg, who's now copyrighted her name as a marketing, as a trademark. These people are just so like that guy in, you know, Sanity for Sweden. He nailed it perfect, and I'll keep repeating it. Let them do it. Just sit back and let them destroy them. Just let them show themselves to the world for what they are. You don't have to go around wasting your energy, you know, waking people up. Just let them open their stupid fucking mouths. And, you know, like, because he, you know, the man Neil Ferguson, what he did was he showed what they're really like. That they're just all bullshitters who make it up as they go along. And the politicians have got, you know, now I'm seeing that the politicians, like in the Green Party here, don't want to call a second election now in Ireland. When we had an election just before the pandemic, and it was a three-way split between Sinn Féin and the two other big parties. Now these parties don't want another election. Why? Because they know that no one's going to vote for green issues. It's between the Michael Moore movie that came out that showed what a lot of bullshit the whole green thing is, and there's no such thing as renewable energies that don't exist. That fought like Trump was absolutely right. Return to fossil fuel is the only way you can safeguard energy security going forward, and they know they're doomed. They know they're finished, and so it's like you can see all the personal agendas all pulling into this, you know. And then there's also, I was talking to one of my friends in England yesterday on the phone, and she was saying that there's huge, a lot of it has to do with people who don't like when they have polls of the order of the meat, and they say how many wants to go back to work. It's 80% saying no, and that's because they're sitting in all day drinking, getting drunk, and watching Netflix, and the alcoholism, the amount of alcohol that has been purchased during this lockdown has been colossal, and people who were just casual drinkers, a lot of them are now full-blown alcoholics or functional alcoholics, and they literally can't go back to work because they're alcoholics. This will be demonstrated as the biggest element of all this. And on top of all that, you get the things like domestic abuse, domestic conflicts. Just imagine if you're a woman who's with two kids, who's stuck in a house with some bastard who's a monster, and he's slapping her around. He can slap her around to his heart content and terrorize the kids, and vice versa. A woman who's a husband beater or a child torturer, they have had a holiday. And this is where the real story will be in years to come. This is where they will sit down and say this was the greatest disaster ever. And this is why people like us, that watch these videos, our soul tribe, we have avoided all this for the simple reason that at some stage in our life we said, no, we're not going to follow the herd. We're not going to be like this. But you're not going to do this to us. And we'll prosper and thrive, and we'll be very happy, and we will be fine. And for the simple fact that we didn't allow the black magic spell of stay at home, save lives to become something that terrorized and frightened us, and we sought higher answers both from inside ourselves and from inside like-minded minds on the internet who are able to reach and talk to us. So look after yourselves, love you all to bits, and yeah, it's going to be fine.